Okay, so today we're going to be talking about division properties of exponents, which is in chapter 7.5. The objectives for today is to divide powers with the same bases and then to raise the power of a quotient. Okay, still A1.4.1. First property we're going to talk about is the property of dividing. Make this a little... There we go. Dividing powers with the same bases. So we learned back in the multiplying same bases we would add together. So you kind of use some common sense here. If multiplying we're going to add the exponents, division you're probably going to subtract, which would be right. So if we have same bases, again powers, this is your base, A is your base. If we're dividing, we're going to take this and subtract the exponents. Now, a lot of questions come up, well, why do we do this? If I give you an example, let's say we had x over 3, or x to the third, excuse me, over x to the second. We learned back in section 7.1 that what we can do is bring things to the top, take things to the bottom, and change the exponent from positive to negative. Well, if I bring up the bottom x, it would have to become a negative exponent. Now we have same bases multiply together, and so in that case we would add their exponents and we would add a -2, which is really just subtracting. So that's kind of the why, that's the how it works. Really probably what you want to know is just what to do. So in our sense, we're just going to take this x to the 3 and we're just going to go ahead and subtract the 2. Now I always advise just taking it to the larger number. I know some other teachers say, hey, let's go to the bottom or always go to the top. I always say just go to the larger number. And I say that for the reasons that if we have x to the, let's say, second over x to the fifth, well, I don't want to bring the 5 up because I know 2 minus 5 is going to be a negative. I'm going to have to move things down anyway. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to write it 5 minus 2. So I'm always going to take the larger minus the smaller one. But I'm going to take it to the side that I'm on, which just gives me a positive 3. So if I did 2 minus 5, that would be a -3, and then I would have to bring it down anyway by negative exponents. Okay, so there's a little bit of why and everything, how everything works. Okay, so let's look at problem number 1. Problem number 1, doing this process. I have x to the 8th over x to the 3rd. I know 8 is bigger, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to take 8 minus 3. Since I moved the 3 to the top, it's a 1 left on the bottom. That gives me x to the 5th. Okay, so same thing over here. As I've told you in the past, we want to take things in small pieces. So I'm going to kind of break this down a little bit and say, hey, I'm just going to worry about the m's being with the m's and the n's being with the n's. Okay, so I see that the 2 is on top, the 5 is on bottom of the m's. So what I want to do is I want to take the m 5 minus the 2. I want to take that 2 to the bottom and subtract it from there. That's just going to make it easier. You're simplifying as you go. Now if you take the 5 to the top, that's fine. You're just going to have to simplify another step. I know the 4 is bigger on top than the 3, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the n, take the 4 minus the 3. So I took the 3 to the top. So now I have n to the first and m to the third. So it's n to the first over m to the third. Okay, and it's simplified as I go. I don't have to worry about moving negative exponents, things like that. Okay, so got it, number 2. Again, take it piece by piece. So I know in B there's a lot of stuff going on. Do x's first, then do y's, and then do z's. Okay, so let's look at problem number 2, which is dividing numbers in scientific notation. So it's talking about the population density of Angola, which is 1.21 times 10 to the 7th, and the area is 4.81 times 10 to the 5th. Okay, so it's telling you that the population density is people per unit of area. So that tells us that we're going to take the 1.21 times 10 to the 7th, and we're going to take 4.81 times 10 to the 5th. So we're taking people over the area. Now to work this out, what we're going to do is we're going to take the 1.21 and we're going to divide that by the 4.81. Now this is very similar to that of what we did in the multiplication section, where we would multiply numbers with the numbers and we would take the powers of 10 times the powers of 10. Okay, this is just division, so it's the same concept. Now if we divide this number, so we're just going to take that, divide it, you should get 0.252 times 10. Now we're going to take the 7 minus 5, which is going to give us the 2. Now this is the population density, but it's not scientific notation. So we're going to make this 2.52. But we changed that to 2.52, so to get it back the way it was, it needs to be a -1. And then times 10 to the 2nd. So therefore that gives us 2.52 times 10, which is going to give you 25.2 as a standard notation, scientific notation. Okay, so scientific and then standard notation on that problem. Okay, so second property we're going to look at is the quotient property. And the quotient property is just saying, kind of like we did with the product property, where everything goes through. This is the same concept. So since I have A and B inside and it's a quotient, there's no addition, no subtraction in the M. This M technically kind of goes through each piece. So that's why we're getting A to the M over B to the M. Now again, if we look at other examples, this would be very similar to saying, like, if I had X over Y and let's say squared. Well, expanded form, you're going to write X over Y times X over Y. Well, X times X is X squared and Y times Y is Y squared. So that's kind of the why, how it works. You would write that in expanded form each time, and so then it's just going to be squaring top and bottom. Okay, so we'll look at problem 3, and we're going to use a lot of our different components here. So we have a power to a power, and then a quotient, and it's to a power. Okay, so what we have to do is we're going to take that z to the 4th, and it's also going to get the cubed, and then we're going to take the 5, and it's also going to get the cubed. Okay, and I'll put that in parentheses as well. So the top, you now have a power to a power, so you have to remember that rule. That rule was multiply. So 4 times 3, we get 12. In the bottom, you get 5 cubed, which we take 5 times 5, and we get 25, and then 5 times 25 makes 125, giving us our final answer to be that z to the 12th over 125. Okay, so got it, number 3 here. Go ahead and do that one. Again, answers we'll check later. Okay, we're going to go ahead and stop there for this video. Go watch part B, and we'll look at the rest of the section and the answers to the keys.